let's go. Let's talk about Moore's law a little bit. It's
Uh-huh.
at the broad view of Moore's law, where it's just exponential improvement of computing capability. Like OpenAI, for example, recently published this kind of papers looking at the exponential improvement in the training efficiency of neural networks
Hmm.
for like ImageNet and all that kind of stuff. We just got better on this. This is purely software side, just
Hmm.
figuring out better tricks and algorithms for training neural networks, and that seems to be improving significantly faster than the Moore's law prediction.
Hmm.
So that's in the software space. Like, what do you think if Moore's law continues, or if the general version of Moore's law continues? Do you think that comes mostly from the hardware, from the software, some mix of the two, some interesting, totally, so not the reduction of the size of the transistor kind of thing, but more in the totally interesting kinds of innovations in the hardware space, all that kind of stuff?
Well, there's like a half a dozen things going on in that graph. So one is there's initial innovations that had a lot of headroom to be exploited. So, the efficiency of the networks is improved dramatically. And then the decomposability of those and the use they started running on one computer, then multiple computers, then multiple GPUs, and then arrays of GPUs, and they're up to thousands. And at some point, so it's sort of like they were going from like a single computer application to 1,000 computer application. So that's not really a Moore's law thing. That's an independent vector. How many computers can I put on this problem? Because the computers themselves are getting better on like a Moore's law rate, but their ability to go from 1 to 10 to 100 to 1,000,
Yeah.
was something. And then multiplied by, the amount of computes it took to resolve like AlexNet to ResNet to transformers. It's been quite, steady improvements.
But those are like S curves, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's the exactly kind of S
Yeah.
curves that are underlying Moore's law from the very beginning.
Yeah. So,
So what's the biggest, what's the most productive, rich source of S curves in the future, do you think? Is it hardware, is it software, or is it
so hardware is going to move along relatively slowly, like, double performance every 2 years. There's still,
I like how you call that slowly.
that's the slow version, the snail's pace of Moore's law. Maybe we should trademark that one.
That's
Whereas the scaling by number of computers, can go much faster. I'm sure at some point Google had their initial search engine was running on a laptop,
yeah.
and at some point they really worked on scaling that. And then they factored the indexer from, this piece and this piece and this piece, and they spread the data on more and more things. And, they did a dozen innovations. But as they scaled up the number of computers on that, it kept finding new bottlenecks in their software and their schedulers, and made them rethink. Like, it seems insane to do a scheduler across 1,000 computers to schedule parts of it and then send the results to one computer. But if you want to schedule 1 million searches, that makes perfect sense. So there's the scaling by just quantity is probably the richest thing. But then as you scale quantity, like a network that was great on 100 computers may be completely the wrong one. You may pick a network that's 10 times slower on 10,000 computers, like per computer.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go from 100 to 10,000, it's 100 times. So that's one of the things that happened when we did internet scaling, is the efficiency went down, not up. The future of computing is inefficiency, not efficiency.
But scales, inefficient scale.
It's scaling faster than inefficiency bites you. And as long as there's, dollar value there, like scaling costs lots of money.
Yeah.
But Google showed, Facebook showed, everybody showed that the scale was where the money was at.
It was, and so it was worth it financially. Do you think, is it possible that like basically the entirety of Earth will be like a computing surface? Like this table will be doing computing, this hedgehog will be doing computing, like everything really inefficient, dumb computing will be
Science
leveraged.
fiction books, they call it computronium.
Computronium?
We turn everything into computing. Well, most of the elements aren't very good for anything. Like, you're not going to make a computer out of iron. Like, silicon and carbon have like nice structures. We'll see what you can do with the rest of it.
No, I just
Like, people talk about, well, maybe we can turn the sun into a computer, but It's hydrogen and a little bit of helium. So,
What I mean is more like actually just adding computers to everything.
oh, okay. I thought
So
you're just converting all the mass of the universe into a computer.
no. So not
That'd be
using.
ironic from the simulation point of view. It's like the simulator built mass to simulate. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I mean, ultimately, this is all heading towards a simulation.
yeah,
Yes, but
well, I think I might have told you this story. At Tesla, they were deciding, so they want to measure the current coming out of the battery, and they decided between putting a resistor in there and putting a computer with a sensor in there.
mhm.
And the computer was faster than the computer I worked on in 1982. And we chose the computer because it was cheaper than the resistor. So sure, this hedgehog, it costs $13, and we can put an AI that's as smart as you in there for $5. It'll have one. So computers will be everywhere.
I was hoping it wouldn't be smarter than me because,
Well, everything's going to be smarter than you.
but you were saying it's inefficient. I thought it's better to have a lot of dumb
Well, well,
things.
well, Moore's law will slowly compact that stuff.
So even the dumb things will be smarter than us.
The dumb things are going to be smart, or they're going to be smart enough to talk to something that's really smart. It's like, well, just remember, like a big computer chip,
Yeah.
it's like an inch by an inch and, 40 microns thick. It doesn't take very many atoms to make a high power computer,
Yeah.
and 10,000 of them can fit in a shoebox. But, you have the cooling and power problems, but, people are working on that.
But they still can't write compelling poetry or music or understand what love is or have a fear of mortality. So we're still winning.
Neither can most of humanity. So,
Well, they can write books about it. So